The weight of history presses down, not as a memory, but as a living, breathing testament to a power struggle as old as time itself. We've been taught that rulers rose by the will of the people, or sometimes through force of arms. But what if the very crowns they wore, the symbols they wielded, told a far more ancient and terrifying story? And real quick, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell for more videos. Now let's keep going. A story whispered in the dusty ruins of Mesopotamia, etched into the hieroglyphs of Egypt, and echoing in the sacred rites of kings and pharaohs across millennia. Imagine a lineage that doesn't end with the fall of an empire, but rather snakes through it, its tendrils extending far beyond human comprehension. These weren't rulers who found power, they were conduits, chosen by whispers from realms our waking minds dare not entertain. The serpent, a symbol of wisdom and rebirth in some traditions, took on a chilling new aspect when coiled not just around a staff, but around the very heads of those who claimed divine right. This wasn't merely adornment, it was a living pact, a conduit for an authority that seeped from the underworld, granting permission to rule. We'll begin by unraveling the coiled serpent, learning how its ancient iconography became the bedrock of royal power. You'll start to see it everywhere, not just on crumbling statues or in faded tapestries, but in the subtle curves of modern emblems, in the solemnity of coronation ceremonies, and in the very architecture of authority. It's a pattern designed to confuse, to distract, but also to reveal if you know where to look. Power, it turns out, has always been permissioned, and the true seat of authority sits in shadows, unseen by the masses. The ultimate revelation awaits as we connect this serpent crown to the suppression of our own innate spiritual sight, the binding of our third eye, all in service of a profound spiritual obedience. The serpent's coils, a symbol so potent it resonates through civilizations, held a secret that kings and pharaohs understood implicitly. Their crowns were not just gold and precious gems, they were intricate sigils, conduits to a power source far below the surface of our world. Consider the Mesopotamian rulers, their lineage traced back through bloodlines that claimed communion with beings emerging from the abyss. These stories, often dismissed as mythology, were in fact the operational manuals of ancient sovereignty. The serpent's form, so often depicted as sinuous and cunning, represented the very essence of control being granted from infernal powers. When we look at pharaonic Egypt, the imagery becomes even more pronounced. The uraeus, the rearing cobra atop the pharaoh's headdress, was more than a symbol of authority. It was a ward and a weapon blessed by deities of the netherworld. This wasn't a passive symbol, it was an active participant in maintaining the king's divine mandate. The coiled form itself spoke of a power that was contained, yet ready to strike, a power authorized from a place of primal darkness. This ancient pact imprinted itself onto the very idea of kingship, a hidden contract that legitimized subjugation. We see this serpentine influence in the very regalia of power. The twisted designs, the interwoven patterns that adorn the staffs and scepters, they are echoes of this original mandate. These weren't just aesthetic choices, they were visual incantations, reminding all who beheld them that the ruler's authority was derived from powers that dwelled in the shadows. And what is perhaps most unsettling is how this symbolism has persisted, subtly morphing into the logos of modern corporations and the emblems of nations, a constant, unseen reminder of the true source of their power. The ultimate chilling truth lies in recognizing how this ancient serpent crown directly connects to the deliberate suppression of our spiritual sight, a spiritual obedience forged in primordial fear. The serpentine imagery isn't confined to ancient artifacts. It's a living blueprint embedded in the very fabric of our modern world, a hidden language of control. Take a moment to look at the logos of powerful entities, places of congregation, and symbols of authority. You'll find the subtle curves, the interwoven spirals, the very essence of the serpent's form lurking beneath the surface. These aren't accidental design choices. They are deliberate echoes of that ancient pact, a constant reinforcement of the power that is permissioned from realms we rarely acknowledge. Think about the sacred geometry that often surrounds these symbols of power. The way lines converge, the way circular forms are interwoven with sharp angles, it all speaks to a deeper, more intricate system of control. This is where the true meaning of the crown's coiled form becomes painfully clear. It was never just about earthly rule, it was about channeling an otherworldly authority, an authority that demanded fealty and spiritual obedience. The power granted was not innate, it required a binding, a spiritual contract with forces that thrived in darkness. And this is precisely where the Serpent Crown's ultimate secret lies. Its most profound significance is its direct role in the suppression of our own innate spiritual capacity. The third eye, the seat of spiritual perception and higher consciousness, was precisely what these powers sought to blind. By adorning rulers with serpent crowns, they weren't just asserting their dominion over people, they were asserting their dominion over humanity's very ability to perceive truth, to access higher realms. The coiled serpent on the forehead was a ritualistic act, a symbolic sealing of the spiritual gateway, ensuring a populace remained tethered to the material and the easily controlled. This is the grim legacy, the deliberate blinding of our inner sight. We've seen how the serpent crown is more than adornment, it's a tool of profound spiritual suppression. But what was the ultimate goal of blinding our inner sight? It wasn't merely about controlling actions, it was about harvesting something far more fundamental, something intrinsic to our very being. This deliberate dimming of our spiritual light was designed to create a specific kind of existence, a predictable pattern for souls to follow. Consider the concept of a soul trap. If our ability to perceive beyond the material is actively suppressed, if our connection to the divine spark within us is severed, then our journey through existence becomes far more manageable for these unseen rulers. We become units, predictable components in a grand, cosmic machinery. The fear of death, the longing for an afterlife, these deeply ingrained human experiences are expertly manipulated when our spiritual sight is impaired, making us susceptible to manufactured salvation. The next crucial piece of this puzzle involves understanding how the illusions of salvation are constructed. The promise of light after death, the narratives of eternal reward, these are not always what they seem. They can be artificial frequencies, carefully crafted enticements designed to guide souls not to true liberation, but to another form of confinement, a spiritual reset button. This manufactured afterlife becomes a continuation of the same control, albeit in a different plane of existence. The ultimate purpose of the Serpent Crown, then, was to ensure this cycle of spiritual servitude continued, generation after generation, by blocking our innate ability to recognize the illusion. We'll delve into how this illusion of salvation works precisely by manipulating our deepest hopes and fears. The concept of the artificial frequency of salvation is chilling not just because it suggests deception, but because it points to a deliberate engineering of the afterlife experience. When our spiritual sight is deliberately blinded, as symbolized by the serpent crown, we become blind to the true nature of spiritual gateways. We are left vulnerable, relying on the narratives we've been fed, narratives that promise transcendence but may deliver something else entirely. Imagine death not as an end, but as a transition. Without the inner sight to navigate this transition consciously, we become susceptible to external frequencies, to engineered spiritual pathways. These aren't necessarily pathways to freedom or true enlightenment. They can be beautifully crafted illusions, promises of peace and reunion designed to herd souls towards predetermined destinations. This is the essence of artificial frequency. It's not about genuine spiritual ascension, but about guided compliance, a sophisticated form of spiritual programming. The hope of salvation, in this context, becomes a powerful tool of control. It offers comfort in the face of the unknown, a promise of rest after a life of struggle. But if that salvation is artificially induced, if it is a frequency broadcast designed to pacify and redirect, then it serves the same purpose as the serpent crown, to keep souls bound, to prevent them from achieving true sovereignty. It's a perpetuation of the primal contract, an assurance that the underworld deities, or their modern manifestations, continue to have access to our spiritual essence. The deeper implication of this engineered afterlife is how it guarantees spiritual obedience by exploiting our most profound desires for peace and belonging. We've uncovered the manufactured nature of salvation, but the true architects of this system are more ancient and profound than simple deceivers. Their influence is woven into the very fabric of existence, expressed through patterns and symbols that span millennia. The black robes, the cube altars, the hexagon storms, these aren't random. They represent a recurring design, a signature mark of a power that seeks to impose order, a rigid, geometric order upon the chaos of existence. This geometric lock, this imposition of form, is not a natural phenomenon. It is a deliberate imposition, a way of containing and directing spiritual energy. The hexagon, in particular, has been a recurring motif in sacred geometry, but its use in these contexts speaks to a force that seeks to bind and restrict rather than liberate. Think of the Saturnian imagery, the rings, the hexagon on its pole. This isn't just astronomical observation, it's symbolic language pointing to a cosmic jurisdiction, a throne from which this order is maintained. Where did this pervasive pattern originate? Tracing its roots back to the throne of Saturn reveals a lineage of power that predates human civilization as we know it. Saturn, the ancient god of time, agriculture, and restriction, also represents a cosmic principle of limitation and structure. The symbolism associated with it, the black, the cube, the hexagonal patterns, all point to a system designed to impose boundaries, both physical and spiritual. This ancient origin explains why these symbols resonate so deeply, why they appear across diverse cultures, often in systems of power, both ancient and modern. The true genesis of this binding pattern is key to understanding our own entrapment. The hum of Saturn's signal is more than just a theoretical concept. It's a percussive rhythm of control that impacts our very sense of self. We've explored how this signal is transmitted through symbols, through engineered salvation, and through the imposition of rigid, geometric order. But what is the ultimate payload of this vibration? It's not merely an external force influencing us. It's a waveform that directly translates into the manipulation of our internal world. This vibration, this Saturnian hum, is fundamentally a technology of control that targets memory, identity, and our ability to experience authentic consciousness. It creates loops, cycles of thought and behavior that keep us tethered to a predefined reality. Think of the constant bombardment of information, the repetitive cycles of news and entertainment, the societal pressures to conform. These are all external manifestations of an internal energetic loop. This is how identity is bound. It's not just about what we believe, but about how our very consciousness is being modulated. Imagine your unique signature, your soul's fingerprint, being subtly altered by this pervasive vibration. It doesn't erase you, but it reshapes you, making you a more predictable, controllable entity. The cycles of reincarnation, the patterns of suffering and limitation we experience collectively and individually can be seen as evidence of these binding frequencies at work. The signal weakens our connection to our true infinite nature, making us susceptible to these imposed identities, these artificial limitations. The true power of Saturn's signal lies in its ability to hijack our consciousness, binding our identity to a limited, cyclical existence. Make sure to subscribe for more videos and hit that notification bell so you never miss a new video. We'll see you in the next one.